So, and this might be typical of a lot of folks that are listening to your podcast, but I was a pretty squirrely kid in high school. I went to high school in Tyler, Texas, and I wasn't hanging out with the right kids, the right crowd. And we do become the people we hang around. After high school, I spent 2 years doing jobs in East Texas, and I made a lot of money. I did really good as far as financially, but because I had no discipline, I spent the money quicker than I made it, if anyone's ever come in on that path. So by age 20, I realized I didn't have anything to show for the last 2 years. Not only that, I was bumping into kids I went to high school with, and I was so unimpressed with them. And then I realized I am them. So I went to my dad and I said, Dad, I'm thinking about joining the military. And my dad goes, why? And I go, I think I need some self-discipline. And my dad was like, yeah, that might be a good thing. So I went down to the recruiters and signed up. Now you can't sign up to be a ranger, but you can sign up for a slot to try out. So the only guarantee you get is a guarantee to try out. So I signed up for a guaranteed slot to try out to be a ranger.
Welcome, Warriors, to the Battle Harder podcast. In this episode, I am sitting down with Kirk Weisler, the Chief Morale Officer, former Army Ranger, Special Forces Chaplain, and one of the most sought-after leadership voices in the world. For over 23 years, more than 80,000 leaders have sought Kirk's expertise, not through ads and not through funnels, mind you, but through word of mouth and impact. And that's exactly what I want to get into. We talk about leadership, initiative, mental health, and why how you show up for yourself is very important, and it matters more than what you say. So let's get into it. Kirk, welcome to the Battle Harder podcast.
Oh my gosh. Thanks, Rob. Pleasure to be here.
So, you spent decades working with leaders, organizations, teams, and cultures, former Army Ranger, Special Forces Chaplain. Kind of walk us a little bit into that journey of how you decided to join into the military, what led you to the Army Rangers, and then from that, most people don't go into, the religious sector as far as being a chaplain. Interesting enough, when I went to Navy boot camp, in boot camp, you don't have to, but you can have a job or be a leader, so to speak. And I was actually the religious petty officer for my company. So that's pretty cool that I get to speak to an actual chaplain today. So just walk us through that journey a little bit of your entry into the military.
Sure. So, and this might be typical of a lot of folks that are listening to your podcast, but I was a pretty squirrely kid in high school. I went to high school in Tyler, Texas, and I wasn't hanging out with the right kids, the right crowd, and we do become the people we hang around. After high school, I spent 2 years doing jobs in East Texas, and I made a lot of money. I did really good as far as financially, but because I had no discipline, I spent the money quicker than I made it, if anyone's ever come in on that path. So by age 20, I realized I didn't have anything to show for the last 2 years. Not only that, I was bumping into kids I went to high school with, and I was so unimpressed with them. And then I realized I am them. So I went to my dad and I said, Dad, I'm thinking about joining the military. And my dad goes, why? And I go, I think I need some self-discipline. And my dad was like, yeah, that might be a good thing. So I went down to the recruiters and signed up. Now you can't sign up to be a ranger, but you can sign up for a slot to try out. So the only guarantee you get is a guarantee to try out. So I signed up for a guaranteed slot to try out to be a ranger. And that was back, this is so long ago. That's right back when they were reforming the 3rd Ranger Battalion. And so, and to be very clear, Rob, I had never done anything. I wasn't a sports kid, so I had never done anything hard before physically.
Really?
Like wrestling, sports. So basic and AIT, I barely made the standards. Airborne school, the standards were a little bit higher. I barely made the standards in airborne school. Going into the Ranger Battalion, I barely made the standards at Ranger Battalion. But that first year of my life, my body was now just trying to be conditioned to do hard things. Right. So it took me 2 years being in the military before my body began to really respond to what I was asking of it. And by close to the end of the second year, my body was like, okay, we're ready to go. And that's when I began to kind of really gain the confidence and feel like I belonged and kind of quiet that imposter syndrome. Like at any moment, they're going to find out that I'm just barely, and then finally I was like, oh, and then I was like, oh, and that moment when you can accept that I can do hard things and you believe it, a whole new world of possibility opens for you. And that happened for me in the Rangers. And it was about a year after that I thought, how can I give 4 years to Uncle Sam and not give a couple years to God? I was raised in a religious tradition,
Hmm.
but I didn't do anything with it. Because I think, like any relationship with another person, a relationship with God also requires an investment. You can't just show up and hope everything works out. You gotta invest in that relationship. Like, you need to get to know that other person. And so I was raised with scriptures, but I never read them. And so somewhere in there, I thought, yeah, I need to know, because if there is a God and we can know this God and have a relationship with him, which many people said you could, I wanted to find out about that. And that kind of led me to open a religious door in my life, and one that I'm glad that I've opened.
So, I mean, Army Ranger, you know, best of the best when I talk to SEALs and Rangers and Delta Force and all these, you know, high speed guys. Why Rangers? Did you see something on TV? Did you have a family
Oh,
member or a friend? Like, that's, you know, you
no,
seem
no, no, no.
like you were self-aware.
No, Rob. At this point in my life, there was no self-awareness. There was just, no, what enough
Whatever.
left.
It was just kind of
No,
whatever,
it was,
seat of the pants.
so the only thing I knew about in the military was the Green Berets.
Hmm.
But you can't go down to the recruiter and say, I want to be a Green Beret. And by the way, that would have been a tragedy anyway, because I was so clueless. But he said, you know, the Rangers can help give you a foundation if you like, and you can survive the Rangers. Maybe you can try it to be in the Green Berets. And so I'm just a clueless 20-year-old, just so clueless. So I didn't even really know what the Rangers was, but I knew it was a higher standard and it was something to strive for. But that's all I really knew. So no, there was no ambition. There was no research. I didn't even know about the Rangers till I showed up at the recruiter's office.
So what was that like jumping in with all the, you said you didn't do sports or you weren't really into fitness and everything, and your body essentially had to catch up. Was that like a huge culture shock for you to like jump in there and have to do all this hard stuff? And did you
Oh
like
yeah.
find yourself saying, what did I do to myself? Why am I here?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You're like, yeah, absolutely. My body was in shock. My brain was in shock. I think everyone has a personal orientation, right? And part of my personal orientation, I think, that got me through the first few months was there's something magical that happens in us when we can step outside of our own misery and pain and help others. And because there were so many people around me that were also struggling, helping some of them that were possibly weaker than I was, helping them really seemed to strengthen my resolve and my ability to persevere until my body began to catch up with what was being asked of it. Yeah.
And so, you know, going into becoming a chaplain, for those that may not know, like, what did that look like? What did you have to do to get into that position? And did that make you like a officer at that point or a lieutenant?
Okay. So to be clear, my bio says chaplaincy. So when I got out of the Rangers, I went and served a 2-year mission for my church.
Oh, okay.
And then I re-enlisted in the 19th Special Forces, which is it's the only National Guard Special Forces troop that exists. And they immediately wanted to put me, because of my Ranger qualification, they immediately wanted to put me on an A team. But the thing was, all the A teams are basically active duty. They might be a National Guard unit, but most of the 19th A teams are active. And I go, I don't want to do that. I want to go to college. I want to meet a girl and get married. I said, so I want a position that's truly a weekend position. I don't want to be on an A team. So they said, well, we've got an opening here. We've got an opening here. We've got an opening in the chaplaincy. So I was in the chaplaincy. So I was still commissioned. I was still a non-commissioned officer. And I worked with Chaplain Young. And we had a chaplaincy of 3 members. So that's different than being a chaplain.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Where did you do your 2-year mission at?
So my faith tradition that I was raised in was as a Latter-day Saint.
Okay.
And so you don't choose where you go. You basically say, I'd like to serve. I'd like to be a missionary. I'd like to tell people about Jesus Christ. You do some interviews. You submit your paperwork, and then you get a 2-year assignment. Both of my brothers went to South America, Peru, Bolivia. You can be assigned anywhere in the world: Japan, Australia, Idaho. My 2-year assignment was Salt Lake City, Utah.
Isn't that the Mormon capital of the world?
Exactly. I told God, I said, I'm a ranger. I'm ready to go to the Amazon. I'm ready to go to the deep bush and preach the word. And I got assigned to Salt Lake City, Utah. And so that's where the 19th Special Forces is headquartered, out of Draper, Utah. I actually knocked on the door of the group commander, Special Forces Commander Don Spradling. And so here I was trying to recruit him into my church. And he said, well, I don't want to go to your church, but when you're done, I can tell your prior service, when you're done, I'll recruit you into my unit. So he reverse recruited me.
Reverse recruited. That's cool. So how much total time between active duty and the Guard were you in? Like, what was your total military time then?
12 years.
Oh, wow. And
then I would have gone 20, Rob, but we started having my wife and I started having little babies. And even those weekends, even though they're just weekends, they became a real distraction between, I just didn't feel like I was as present as I wanted to be as a dad of a very young family. So yeah.
No, I understand that. So, I had my two older kids were a lot younger when I was in the military. And when I deployed on my deployments to like Egypt and Iraq and all that stuff, I literally missed birthdays, anniversaries, holiday, like everything. And it is very surreal and odd to come back and you don't even, recognize your own family. Because during that time, we didn't have the technology to like FaceTime or Zoom.
Yep.
You had to send email or a letter, so very, very surreal to have to miss all that. So I feel you on the family issue. Family is a very integral part of my life. So after, you did all this in the military and you got out, what was next? What happened next in your life? Where did you go from there?
Well, I went to college. I started college when I was 26 and a half years old. And I tried to get into some big schools, but they rejected me. My high school transcripts weren't that stellar. So I went to a community college. But at the community college, a couple things changed for me. So I wasn't a stellar high school student. The two things that changed for me, because at the community college, something happened for me that had never happened before. And that was this. I made A's. And I'd never made A's before. I was confident. I sat in the front row. I learned things, and I had this belief that I could do things. And so I exploded because I was kind of a wallflower, making poor choices in high school. In college, I was like, I'm going to own this thing. I'm going to date that girl. I'm going to ask that person out. I'm going to join this. I got involved in student leadership. I got involved in student council. I didn't try to lead it. People asked me, hey, Kirk, would you want to be on our student council? I got invited to do a lot of things because I was walking with my shoulders back and my head up. So people were inviting me to do things. And once you can establish some sense of peace, not arrogance, but peace with who you are, and you cease to have any interest in trying to be interesting to others, but you become interested in others, you become a much more attractive human being. And so I started getting a lot of invitations to do things and to be a part of things. And I just kept saying yes to those things. And pretty soon I was on a full ride scholarship, a leadership scholarship, a presidential scholarship. I've got a couple brothers that were really, really smart, but they're still paying off student loans. I went to college for free.
Wow.
And not because I'm all that, but just because once we start worrying about this and we start just seeing the world and showing up for other people, you just become more attractive, and that just seems to get you invited to do things. I probably oversimplified that, but I hope the spirit of it communicates.
Well, yeah. So let's dive into that and dig deeper on that whole sense of self and being self-aware. And do you feel the military gave you that confidence, gave you that leadership qualities, that purpose to be able to be more outgoing and involved?
Yes. No, to be clear, I would credit my military experience with a couple things that were just so important foundationally for me. Fundamentally, although the language has changed, the language I would use today was that the military gave me the confidence to know that I could do hard things. Because I'd never been a captain. So I could do hard things. And that confidence then would carry from that small window into the 2 years I spent knocking on doors and trying to share a message about Jesus Christ with people who often didn't want to hear anything from me. But I was confident. I was confident in relationships as far as with other young men, and being around men of different types and varieties, and realizing people are dramatically different from me, and that's okay. They can be dramatically different from me, and I'm as different to them as they are to me. And those skills, if we can call those life skills, you take those and you put them in any context, and all of a sudden you're not showing up in a room filled with judgment. You're showing up in a room filled with curiosity, right? And that allows you to be interested. Those skills then get you invited to other relationships where you can gain additional skills. And so I credit the military heavily with that establishment of some confidence that I'd never had before. And that confidence then began to open doors and get me invited to be a part of other things. And then it was just being confident to say, yes, I'm willing to try new things. Because what's going to be asking me here that's going to be harder than what I've already chosen to do in the military? So those things, not arrogance, but confidence.
And so, what happened in your life that caused you to go into kind of where you're at now with the writing the books and the speaking and the authority and leadership? And I'm really super interested in how you did this with zero marketing, with nothing but word of mouth.
Okay, so I want to just be really concise with this because I don't know how interesting it is, but so after I got out of college, one of my neighbors hired me. One of my neighbors really liked me. And I always tease that he was worried about me providing for my family, but he hired me to work for his company. And it was a tech company. It was very IT centric. This was 30 years ago. And they did IT training for MCSE and CCNA kind of stuff. And I told him, I said, I don't want to do that. I don't care about computer networking. And he said, what do you care about? I said, I care about people networking. I want to help people get connected, not computers. And he said, well, come work for me, Kirk. He said, help me manage these 30 prima donna trainers I've got. And let's figure out how to get you doing what you want to do. Because I wanted to do team building and leadership building, that kind of stuff. So he hired me. I did some small stuff for his company. And then he just tried to help me find where my strengths and interests would match. It was really a benevolent thing. Then his company got acquired by another company who wanted the 30 IT people. They didn't want me. Wow. And so they acquired that company and said, hey, Kirk, you seem like a nice guy, but why don't you take the next 3 weeks? We'll pay you. Stay here, but look for another job. So they were really kind to me about it. And so I was going to look for another job, but this guy approached me from the acquisition team and says, Kirk, he said, I know you don't know what I'm talking about. He said, but I've been watching you. I like the way you interact with people. I think you could be a great culture guy. He said, my job at this new company is to build 1,000-person call center, an outsourced contact center. He said, typically they have 100%, 20% turnover. He said, I want to create a call center, outsourced call center that has the lowest turnover in the world. He said, I think you can help me do that. And if you'll follow me for 2 years, I'll teach you an industry and a business. He said, because as far as I can tell, Kirk, you're a great guy, but you have zero business acumen. And he was exactly right. I had zero business acumen. So I did, Rob. I followed this guy for 2 years, and we created 1,000 jobs in those 2 years. We had the lowest turnover in the industry. It wasn't even close. Now, all these jobs now are in India and the Philippines, but right. 30 years ago, they were all here. And because our metrics and our outcomes and our turnover was so dramatically different than the industry standard, the conferences in our industry began to ask our company, would you please send someone to our conference to tell the story about what you're doing? And my boss sent me. And so that's how I learned to tell stories. And that's how I got my name established as someone who talked about culture. And then people at the conference would hear me talking about what we're trying to do culturally and with our leadership stuff and our approach. And they'd say, man, Kirk, would you come to my company and talk to our leaders? And I would say, yeah, because I wasn't a consultant, Rob, and I wasn't selling anything. I was just a guy saying, here's what we're trying to do. Here's the spirit of our leadership approach. And so then I got invited to speak to other conferences, and then people at those conferences invited me to their companies. And that's kind of how I got started on the speaking circuit. just talking about those initial stories. And because everything we were doing, any leader could do, but there's a lot of reasons organizations don't do those things, mostly because of bad habits or lack of awareness.
So why is it important then to, I guess, say yes and get out of your comfort zone and take these risks? Because it seems like due to that, and obviously networking, which I think is one of the hugest resources we have that, you typically don't have to pay for. But why is it important to like be comfortable and being uncomfortable so you can find these opportunities? And it seems like your path that you were on, once you started following this guy, it kind of led to giving you practice on how to be a better speaker. It led you to getting more speaking gigs. It started to build your word of mouth and your book of business as who you are as a speaker. So why is that all important as far as the whole, you have to get out of that comfort zone and like you said, the theme, do the hard things and be uncomfortable?
Rob, that's a great question. Let me just be a little bit more, I just want to be as transparent as I can. I wouldn't want anyone listening to think that Kirk has figured anything out, because I have my own war with the imposter syndrome. I have my own battle with the voice inside that comes forward and gets really loud sometimes and says, that tells me that I'm not enough, or what if or what if they find out what you don't know, or let me give you a very specific example. So here I am telling some stories and getting invited to speak at this company, that company, and feeling really good sometimes. But sometimes I'd show up and I'd look at my notes and what I'm going to talk about, and I go, this is so simple. And I'd be embarrassed about what I was planning on saying, because I thought everyone in the room is already smarter than me, and they already know the stuff, and this is such common sense. And I would get in my own head about what they'd ask me to come talk about. And I would convince myself it wasn't enough. And it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing, because you're like, wait a minute. They ask me because of what I said. They want me to say it again, but I'm now deciding it's not enough. I'm not enough. And I don't know that battle ever goes away. I've become much better at quieting it, recognizing, the bitch voice or whatever it is, and quieting it and telling it to go away and reminding myself about why I'm there. I want to make sure that, I don't know, sometimes I hear speakers and it seems like they never deal with these things, or they never deal with this. And I can't say that's the truth for me. The truth for me is that there's some days that are better than others. Some days that voice is louder than others, and some days that the voice is totally quiet. Does that make sense, Rob?
Yeah. I mean, I'm tracking. I agree with you 100%. And I'll give you an example. So
Please.
For those of you guys that don't know, and I don't remember if I've mentioned this on the podcast or not, I've done a lot of acting over my time frame here in Florida. And there's been multiple times where I've gotten a part or a role, and we're not talking like anything major, but what they call featured extra. You're definitely on camera, you're definitely doing something in the show or movie or whatever. And that imposter syndrome creeps in all the time. And I'm like, I'm not going to show up to set. I'm not going to go do this job. Why did they pick me? Why am I good enough? And then, eventually I have to do a lot. And I think especially for veterans and first responders that may even have some mental health issues, I feel like I do have to do a lot more self-talk than others. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, like, I'm a homebody. I like just being home with the wife. I have to talk myself into doing a lot of things. And this is why I do what I do and why we talk about these things, because if I relied on motivation, I would never leave the house. Like, if I didn't try to be better, if I didn't try to talk myself into things, if I didn't try to err on the side of discipline, I would just be in the house doing nothing, and nothing would get done. And so the imposter syndrome, I even wrote a mini manual on it, but the imposter syndrome is real. I think most men that want to be high performers, or they want to be great, or they want to do something more than what is considered, I guess, normal, I don't think you ever feel like you're good enough. And one of my biggest mentors, Andy Frisella, he talks all the time about people. Oh my God, you're amazing. You've done so much. And he's like, I'm just getting started. He keeps that
Yeah.
hunger that I need
Yes.
to keep going. Because the
Yes.
minute you start to say, I'm great and everything's good, that's where you start to slide and you kind of lay off
Thank
the
you.
gas a little bit and things can start to go downhill. So I think imposter
Wow.
syndrome is
Yeah.
real for a lot of men,
Yeah.
a lot of high performers. And
Thank
I
you,
just
Rob.
had I just had a speaking gig last weekend. It was virtual and I had to talk myself into doing it. And it always ends up the same. I'm like, I can't do this. Why am I here? Do I
Yeah.
deserve this? And then as soon as I give the talk, people are like, man, that was amazing.
Yeah.
And so that
No.
self-doubt is real. That's a very hard
So,
thing
and,
to deal with.
and so just real, thank you, Rob. Thank you for sharing. So if you're listening to Rob and I in this conversation, you can relate to this. There's different things people have done to kind of quiet that voice. And I love Andy Frisell as well. And one of the things that he does, or that I took from his book, was, he gave it a name. What we're calling the imposter syndrome, he calls the bitch voice.
Yep.
Once we identify it, we go, wait a minute, I hear that voice talking to me again. Another lady I talked to, she gave her brain a name. And so when she starts to get that negative stuff, so let's pretend I'm gonna call my brain. My brain's name is Bill the brain. So now Bill's starting to tell me, hey, Kirk, I don't know if you I have anything of that. I start to get that negative. I go, whoa, Bill. And now you're talking to yourself, which might seem crazy. But what she told me was she gave her brain a name. And then when the brain starts giving her stuff that she doesn't need, she goes, whoa, Bill, I don't need that from you right now. Bill, we've done this before, Bill. We've got this. If you got nothing good to say, Bill, I don't need to hear from you. Right? And as soon as you begin to have that conversation, you quiet the voice and you step back up to where you've been before, because you've been on that stage before. You've been on that Zoom call before. Right? And you've got what it takes. And the evidence is there. But sometimes we look at the gap and we ignore all this evidence. And the evidence says, clearly, you can do hard things. Look at the evidence. Because you've done one
Yeah.
hard thing after another. And so you look at the evidence and you go, yeah, based on the evidence, I got this. No,
And
yeah.
I think unfortunately with society today, with everything that's going on in the world and social media and the dumbing down of anything society can do to make us dumber, we fall into that trap and we
Yes.
start to not believe in ourselves. And
Yes.
it makes it even worse if you don't have, that's why support system is huge, whether it's from a wife or a men's group or something, because you can't do it alone. You have to have that support to reassure you. There's so many times my wife, when I want to give up on doing the podcast or trying to be a speaker or these big goals or dreams that I have, if it wasn't for her, I probably would have quit a long time ago. But every so often she's like, no, I see how hard you're working. I see, all the things you do to try to help people and be the best version of yourself. Like, please just keep going. And like, that's a beautiful thing to have that in your corner. So
thank you. All right. So now, Rob, let me go back. The question you asked me that kind of got us on this, I think, a pretty important pathway was about referrals and things like that. So here's what I've decided. This is my conclusion. I'm going to stand behind it like I believe it's true, because I believe it's mostly true. It's the most I can figure out right now. The reason I've been able to have a pretty full speaking calendar for the last 20 something years isn't because I'm the most articulate speaker. It's not because I have the best stories or the best analogies. The principles and truths don't change for anyone who teaches them. I think I'm not diminishing that I'm a good teacher and effective speaker. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't think that's it. Here's what I think. I think if the audience feels and decides that you're fully authentic, my experience is if they can feel that you're speaking from your heart in a deeply authentic way, they'll forgive 90% of your brokenness, your annoyances, your imperfections as a speaker, and they'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Once they sense you're not there to sell them or pitch them or deceive them, once they sense your authenticity, your genuineness, right? They'll let you into their hearts. They'll let you into that place in their brain where they'll give some consideration to what you're sharing and consider even changing or applying some of those principles in their own lives.
And that goes deep into value system, right? Like if in a world where everything seems fake, like if you can be authentic and you can stick to those guns and not break to the societal
Yeah.
expectations, you
But
can go a long way. I mean,
yeah,
just alone being at peace with yourself because you're not, changing anything to get something out of it. You're being who you are. And I think that's a bigger reward system in
yeah.
itself.
Every time, every time I'm in front of a group, if I can do my very, very best, I believe that there's going to be someone in that group who either, oh my gosh, we need to have this guy speak to my group, or my wife's workplace is looking for a speaker right now. I'm going to suggest this guy. So all my work comes from those people in the room who know someone or who need someone or in a conversation later with someone. Oh yeah, you should get this guy. And that's how I get my business. That's what's worked for me but again, to be honest with your listeners, that doesn't mean that there hasn't been a couple months I've sit there going, what if nobody calls? And I've also been in those marketing presentations with 50 speakers. And the guy up front is like, if you want to be successful in the speaking business, you got to do these 17 things. I'm over there going, I don't do any of those 17 things. No one's ever going to call me again. Right. So I've been in all those seats, and I don't know. There's so many things I don't know, but here's what I do know. I know for me, being genuine and giving my very, very best in front of any audience and trying not to put on airs and just trying to show up authentically and give them all the very best that I have to give has been enough for me so far.
I love that. I think that's very important to today's society. Why do you believe that humility increases effectiveness?
I think, let's do it this way. So when you're with someone who has some level of arrogance, you can feel it. And it causes you to kind of shield yourself. It creates a closed sense, right? When we're with arrogant people, we shield ourselves against their arrogance because it's not attractive. We don't really want arrogance. Isn't attractive. So we do this. Humility is the opposite. Humility is openness. Humility invites people. It invites connection. It invites growth. Arrogance doesn't invite any of those things. So humility is this beautiful attractiveness. Humility makes you a very becoming person. Taking two meanings here. Becoming more, becoming better. Because humble people are looking to learn. They're looking to grow. They're looking for people in that space. Right? So humility does a lot of powerful things and invites a lot of powerful things in our life. Humility invites gratitude. Gratitude invites God,
Oh yeah.
God loves a grateful heart. So humility, I think, is definitely something to strive for.
Yeah, I know for me, gratitude was one of the biggest things that has helped me get out of that insanity loop of the negative self-talk and feeling bad about myself and the worthlessness. And honestly, it all started from this podcast. I get to have guests like you and these other guests that tell these amazing stories of resilience and adversity, and it's therapeutic to me. I'm like, wow, I never would have thought of going through something like that.
Yes.
So why am I having a bad day? Why am I upset? So I think, you said earlier about you don't understand because sometimes when you're speaking to people, it's simple knowledge. And I don't understand why people gloss over why we make things so complicated, because as soon as I started saying, 3 things that I was grateful for every night, I was like, man, this is a huge perspective shift. And this is something that I thought it was hokey. I thought it was hippy dippy. I was like, how can this work? How can this be a thing? And it is. And the simple things tend to work more than the over complicated stuff that drive us crazy and make it hard to accomplish anything.
Yes. Amen. Amen. My friend Chester Elton, he wrote the best-selling book, The Gratitude Habit. And he's had a practice for like 15 years. Every night he writes down 3 things. He writes down 3 things he's grateful for and why he's grateful for those things. And he says that additional step of saying, yeah, I'm grateful for my wife, but why? And digging in, giving that tree some roots will help it grow. And yeah, that's a great practice. And you know, in my role, working with leaders and working with people, and your role too, it's not hard to come up with a list of 100 people I've met that I respect, that I admire, that I look up to, and they have that same daily practice. Part of their daily practice, one of their daily non-negotiables is they spend time in gratitude. So it's not just a good idea. I'd say it's a recommended adoptable behavior, right? Anyone can adopt this practice and make it part of your daily non-negotiables. Heck, right here, this is one of my socks.
That's nice.
It's a gratitude sock. And the idea is when you step into the sock, that today I'm going to walk in gratitude today.
Nice.
So as I start my daily affirmation, I put on my gratitude sock, my grateful sock, and I'm going, what am I grateful for? And I'm going to look for things that I'm going to walk in gratitude all day today. You know, I'm going to walk with greater intention into gratitude. And I got that sock idea from this guy, Chester Elton, because he begins every day. Hold on. He begins every day. One of his daily practices, every day he leaves the house with 4 gratitude stones in his right pocket. Now, if you have 4 rocks in your pocket, you're aware of those rocks. And every rock says gratitude on it. So his goal is every day to look for 4 things find 4 things he's grateful for, and then to go call them out. So he sees an act of service over there. He sees someone do something, pick up some trash or show kindness or whatever. He approaches that person and says, I just saw this. I'm grateful. There's people like you out there. Can I give you something? And they go, what? He goes, and then he gives him a stone. And he has a little dialogue he gives with a stone. Then he presses this gratitude stone in their hand and tells them like their gratitude, like this stone thrown in water makes ripples. And their gratitude makes positive ripples in the world today too. Da, da, da. Wow. That's part of this practice. So I love this. So I went and bought 50 stones and I practiced. I still do it. I told him, I said, I'm going to do 50 stones and then I'm going to call you and tell you what I learned. I'm now my 6th box of stones.
Oh, wow.
But I learned from Chester Elton, but I wouldn't have learned it if I was arrogant. I would only learn it if I was humble.
Humble. Right. Yeah. And that's what led you. It seems like you've had a service mindset for quite a long time. And I think when we have a service mindset and we can help others without expectations of what we're going to get out of it, the reward that you get is a millionfold. I mean, there's no limit to how much you can be rewarded. And I really like speaking on gratitude. It's funny, like my day was by all things pretty rough today. I stepped in dog poop while walking the dogs. So, you know, that's always fun. Then there was ants all in my house that I had to deal with today. On top of that, like it was just one of those days where one thing after another, and I started going into that insanity loop of like, oh, my life sucks. This sucks. And I don't remember now what happened, but something happened. I think I was actually like thinking about my wife or something. And I'm like, why am I complaining about today? Like I have this amazing woman who loves me, even as dumb and silly and some of the crazy stuff that I do. She doesn't judge me. She's always had my back. My kids are healthy. I have good relationships with them. I have a roof over my head, food in my house, can probably watch whatever I want on TV because I have the billion like life is good. Like, and it really was able to snap me out of that insanity loop today of that one thing after another, that snowball effect where like you just get to a point where things get bad and they stay bad for no reason.
Right. We have a bad moment and we somehow say we're having a bad day. No, we just had a bad moment.
Bad moment. Exactly.
But we make it. Yeah, no, are you having a bad day or just have a bad experience? Or I stepped in some dog poop. I got a book for you about that, bud.
I think everything today with this episode was meant to be, and I wanted to get into that. So what is the Dog Poop Initiative and what's that about? And then we'll talk about the walkie-talkie socks before we close out the show.
Oh,
So,
well, um, and by the way, for your listeners, I don't think that your story about stepping in dog poop had anything to do with me writing a book about dog poop. I think it just happened to be a nice sweet,
segue.
correlation. So, and I sent you a copy of this, Rob, and I hope you'll enjoy reading it.
Awesome. Thank you.
In the back, it tells the true story of what happened. This is 27 years ago now. My child, who's 26, was just 5 years old when this happened, and it was on a soccer field, and we were the third set of teams on the field that day. And I was the assistant coach dad for this little group of rugrats. And my job was basically to keep the kids off the field and out of the parking lot until it was our turn to play. But two other sets of teams had been on this field that day. So as we showed up waiting for our turn and with their game to end, some parents watching their kids play got my attention and said, "Hey, you on the field next?" I said, "Yeah." They pointed to the side of the field on the soccer field itself, but just over the line was a big pile of dog poop, a monster, like a Great Dane had been there and dropped a load. And they pointed out to me to make sure I saw that it was there. And I said, "Thanks." And then they went back to watching their kids play. I'm like, wow, that pile of poop's been there all day. No one's cleaned it up. I couldn't believe it.
No one could take the second to just pick it up and throw it away, huh?
A few minutes later, I got another warning from someone who didn't see me get the first warning. Coach Coleman shows up. He got the same 2 warnings I got. Like the solution was to make sure everybody knew the poop was there, not to clean it up. And so I thought, man, all these children are watching all these parents do all this pointing and complaining and blaming, but they're not seeing any leadership. They're not
taking action.
So anyway, when their game was over, we cleaned up the poop, but I kept thinking about it. I wrote an email about it, and the email kind of became a thing, and finally it became a book. And now over 100,000 organizations use this book as part of their leadership training. A couple special forces units use it as well. A couple military, a couple first responder units use it, but it's used mostly to spark discussion, because it turns out, well, the subtitle says it best right here. It says, "This is the #1 book for the #2 problem in your organization," because every organization has a pile of poop, something that everyone knows is broken, process, people, procedure. Everyone complains about it. Everyone points it out. They have workarounds for it, but what about just fixing it? And so the book has become very, very popular. And that wasn't my intent for writing the book. My intent for writing the book was just to get it out of my mind because I was so frustrated. But over 20 years now, people keep buying this book and using it for leadership stuff in their organizations. And so that's the Dog Poop Initiative. And yeah, so I've been in more discussions about initiative as a result of this book than I can even point a stick at. I've been on radio shows and all kinds of things. And I've learned a lot about initiative that I didn't know when I wrote the book. I'll tell you that.
And I think that's a testament to why small things matter, right? Like, what's funny is, my son and my ex-wife. So I have my ex-wife and my son. I have my son every other weekend as much as possible. And we got in a discussion one time because I'm the guy that no matter what, I always put the shopping cart back. If it doesn't go in the corral, I'm pushing it all the way to the front of the store, because that 2 seconds out of my day isn't going to make a difference. It's going to keep someone's car from getting dinged up. It's going to help the parking lot, the employees. There's nothing bad about it. And I remember my son telling me, like, well, Mom doesn't put the cart back. And I was like, well, how does that make you feel? And my son, he's like, well, I just put the cart back because you do it. And just being able to, have that leadership and show him why the small things matter, I think are very important. I don't think people realize that. And I did a quick post in my stories today just being kind, I went into Home Depot today, and my Home Depot, they've been having some of their employees actually like scan the items for the people at the self-checkout. And I see people all the time, they get upset. They're like, "Oh, I'll take care of it. Leave me alone." And I just let them do it. And I, thank you. And I hope you have a nice day. And I really appreciate your help. And just that little, you'd be amazed just saying, "Thank you, please. How are you doing?" How that can completely change the course of somebody's day and what might have or had not happened to them, because you just were a little kind. And
Oh man.
I don't understand. I don't understand why people can't put the cart back. I don't understand why people
Oh my
can't throw
gosh.
trash in a trash can. I don't understand why people can't just say, please, thank you, excuse me. Like, excuse me is a lost art nowadays. Like,
Yeah.
I
Oh, preach
don't get
it.
it.
Preach it. Preach it. There's a quote that I have on one of my business cards on the back. It says, in a world where you can choose to be anything, choose to be kind.
Yeah. Kindness is
So,
free.
so here's a practice for your listeners. So I love that your story about putting the cart back. It just triggers me in the most wonderful way. So because I wrote a book about initiative, right? My mindset is really heavily there. So much so that my family doesn't like to go on walks with me because they're walking and what am I doing? Picking up stuff. So my wife doesn't want to hold my hand because I got a greasy McDonald's, Slurpee thing here, and I got some. So, so to compromise, what I do is one time a week, right? I walk with a bag. So if you walk every day, great, walk every day. But one time a week, I just tell people walk with an empty bag from your grocery store and fill it up. Just fill it up because it's always there. I can fill up a bag in 20 minutes walking in any direction from my house.
Wow.
Right? Because right. What blows me away, and I guess we could be angry because people throw their trash, and we could be all angry, but I think the thing that frustrates me more than the trash being there is the number of people
that
who walked by it and
pick
pretended not to see it. And that's where the leadership opportunity exists in our society. We got to stop pretending it doesn't matter and start taking initiative because, like your son goes, I do it because I see you do it. Now that I walk once a week with a bag and I've walked by a lot of my neighbors, you know what I'm seeing now after a few months?
Your neighbors have bags. It's a team effort.
Yeah, making a difference. And no, I didn't have to do any preaching. I didn't have to do any shaming. All we got to do is here's what leadership looks like. Honor their choice, but show them a choice that's positive.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't take much. Like sometimes I think I'm crazy with how I think because the things that I lean into and think about to me are so simple and seem so wholesome and proper and beneficial to being a man, being a father, being a husband. It doesn't take much to be the barrier for entry to be a great man is so low right now.
No, preach it, Rob. Preach it. That's so true.
It's not even funny. But going back to the socks, I love that the whole gratitude stocks, stepping into gratitude. Why socks? And what is the intention with this brand, this new venture? Like, what do you want to create with your movement with this?
Let's go right back to the imposter syndrome with this story. This idea to launch walkietalkiesocks.com has been in my journals for 8 years, Rob. 8 years I've been thinking about this. So 20-something years ago, I had my very first speaking assignment in Australia. I'm in the gift shop. I'm going, oh my gosh, I've spoken. Now I'm going home. I'm like, I don't know what to take home. So I'm in the airport gift shop in Sydney, and I buy some kangaroo scrotum pouches. It's a leather pouch with no seams because it's their scrotum. And I thought, I probably can't give this to everybody. I also bought some socks, some crazy socks. Now, they weren't crazy like we have today. They basically were 7 days a week, 7 colors, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So 7 days a week, matching socks. What happened next, I didn't expect. And that is, at the time, we had 2 little kids on our way to 6. And some of your listeners remember this. You might remember this, Rob. Remember how tough it was? What do I get Dad for Father's Day? What do I get Dad for his birthday? What do I get Dad for Christmas?
Yeah, socks, tie, wallet.
So my wife would say, well, your dad likes socks. Now, I didn't like socks. I wasn't out to become a sock guy, but you add that up over 10 years of 6 kids, and pretty soon you've got 300 something pairs of socks. So I started mismatching my socks. I would put on a Hulk sock. I put on a sock with a rooster on it. And I would say, I'm going to mismatch my socks, but I'm going to put them on with intention. So today, the rooster, I'm going to get up and get I'm going to get crowing and get going. And the Hulk sock today, I'm going to be about resilience. I'm going to find my strength under pressure. Right? I'm not going to lose my temper. I'm going to find my strength to make a difference. So I began to use my socks as part of my daily intention. So then this became known, and this really helped me out. So then people would say, Kirk, what are you stepping into today? Now people are checking on me. I'll pull up my pants because they're interested in where I'm focused today. This is my daily focus, my daily affirmation. Then I was working with a group of young men at the church. I told them what I was doing. They began to mismatch their socks. I didn't ask them. They pulled up their pant legs and say, Kirk, I'm focused on this today. And pretty soon it began to have a real contagious effect. And I thought, oh, this is helpful. It's intentional. It's purposeful. It's contagious. It's communal. I like this. So then I was doing a leadership coaching with a group of 10 leaders at an automotive safety company, Autoleave. And so as part of the one-year coaching program, we laid a whole bunch of socks on the table and said, you can pick one sock and then another sock that doesn't match. And then we're going to tie some of our intentions as leaders to it. Well, they loved it. They began to police each other. They began to pull up their pant legs every day for each other and say, here's what I'm stepping into today. So we all start our day with pretty good intentions. But if you're like me, we can get out of those intentions pretty quickly. We get distracted, disorganized. And so this became just a tool, a fun practice. And then finally I thought, I want to make my own socks. And then the imposter syndrome. What do you know about making socks? So I just kept kicking this idea down the road. But finally I just said, and at the beginning of this year, I said, I'm gonna make socks no matter what. And so finally, after 8 years of thinking about it this year, we launched walkietalkiesocks.com, the world's most intentional footwear. And our goal is to have, by end of March, 60 different designs. Like today, I'm stepping into patience. Today, I'm stepping into focus. Today, I'm stepping into gratitude. And so we've created some socks that are all about those kind of things. I don't remember which ones I sent you. This one is, if you look carefully, this banana, it's open not by the stem end, it's open by the bottom end. Most people open the banana by the stem end.
Right.
So this one says, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. It invites me to take a fresh look at things that I'm very familiar with. And the more familiar with it I am, the closer I should look at it for a different way to see it. This is what we've been talking about today a little bit. Choose to grow. Of all the choices you can make, be humble. Choose to grow in some way. It's got a tree on it. Choose to grow. I do a lot of safety work. This one is, safety is no accident. Like excellence. No one accidentally ends up on the top of Mount Everest, So this one, I love this one. This is the F-bomb.
That's awesome. Faith, family, I like that.
Family, fun, faith, freedom, fitness, finance. So the idea is to just be intentional and have fun, stepping daily into your intention. And then if you get a community doing it, all of a sudden everyone's popping their pant legs in, talking about their focus of the day. So it's really a fun way to stay more intentional and stay in our intentions.
I love it. I think you're going to make socks cool again. So, it's funny thinking on a deeper level, whenever I'm looking for socks to start my day, I'm always looking for that match pair of socks. But why? Why is it so important that those socks match? Why is it so important that they have to have the same, logo, the same fit? Like, why can't you mix up socks? It's that whole going against the grain to do something that's more important and bigger than yourself. So that's how I was raised too. I remember being in a place where I was embarrassed if my socks didn't match. Now I'm like, my socks don't match, and that's on purpose. And that's how we want to live our lives with more purpose, Purpose and intent, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we wrap up the show, I want to ask, if someone was listening right now and they felt stuck, personally, professionally, or mentally, what is the smallest act of initiative that you could tell them to take today that would actually matter?
I guess there's a lot of things that come to mind, but the smallest act of initiative that you could take, if you haven't made your bed, go make your bed. If there's dishes in the sink, go clean out the sink. If there's someone in your household Like, this is what my wife does. You know, our kids are responsible. Our kids do pretty well with their chores. But some days, Rebecca just dives in their rooms and they come home. It's like the room has had a makeover. And they immediately go in the room. They know how they left it. And they know how to clean it. But they immediately come and find their mother. And they give her a kiss on the forehead and they say, thanks, Mom. It made her feel good to serve them. Even though she's a mom, she serves them all the time. So I think there's 1,000 little things. With the dog poop book, sometimes what we do is we play a little game with the kids especially when they were little. We would say, okay, in this particular room, there's 3 things that aren't where they're supposed to be. So go in the room and find those 3 things and correct them. So the kids run off and they find a book that's upside down on the shelf. They find something that needs to be put away. They do it. And then they come back and say, here's the 3 things we found. We go, great. And then we say, we did the same thing in your bedroom. Go find that. Come tell us back. They go in their bedroom. We didn't do anything in their bedroom. Their bedroom already has plenty of things, right? So there's all kinds of things that we could do. And as soon as we do them, we know we've done what's needful. And when we know we've done what's needful, we're in integrity with ourselves. And when we're in integrity with ourselves, it brings its own reward.
Definitely. Honor is very important. As a man, as a father, as a husband, the one thing I always tell my son above anything else is integrity. I've been trying to beat that into his brain as long as I can remember, because I think that's very important in this world. Kirk, amazing conversation. We probably have 5 more episodes on 5 different topics. So I'm sure I'll have you back on another time for something else. Guys, I just want you to know, remember, this episode is a reminder that leadership will always start internally. You have to have that initiative. Without initiative, you can't do anything. You have to take action. You have to start somewhere. You have to take that first step. But when you have initiative, integrity, and intentional living all together, you can be a force to be reckoned with. So if this conversation challenged you today, make sure you share it with someone that needs to hear it. All of Kirk's work, including the Dog Poop Initiative, the Walkie Talkie Socks, will be linked in the description. And guys, until next time, stay intentional. Go ahead. Oh yeah, I forgot the code. Give them the code.
Because I knew I was going to be on Battle Harder, I called the guys and asked them to create a coupon code for all your followers and your fans and people that are part of this community, Rob. So if you end up buying some socks for the next 90 days, just type in the code Battle Harder. It'll give you a nice discount on some intentional footwear.
And guys, we're gonna have that. I'll throw that up on the website, and that will also be on the social media, so you guys can do that. These aren't just socks, guys. These are socks with intention. I think it's a very powerful tool. So definitely go check that out. Support Kirk and the things that he's doing. Kirk, amazing guy. I'm so happy that I got to meet you and come into your life through the Agoge and everything that we're trying to do. Guys, just remember, always stay disciplined and always battle harder.
You've just heard another real comeback story on the Battle Harder podcast, where we turn pain into progress and remind you that rock bottom is just the starting line. If today's message hit home, share it with someone who needs to hear it. You might just change their life. Subscribe, leave a review, and join the mission at battleharder.com. Until next time, stay disciplined, stay dangerous, and keep battling harder.